أعوذ بالله الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. Before the break, we were talking about the framework that can be used to do what? That can be used to analyze and to help us know if our resources as an organization are providing us with a competitive edge as compared to our competitors. And we said that you will be asking a series of questions about our resources using the VRIO framework. And if the answers to all the questions asked will be yes, then our resources will be providing us with a sustainable competitive advantage. And if the answer is no, it means that it will provide us with a competitive disadvantage. Now, let us go to the next part of our lesson. The next part of our lesson is also very, very important because as an organization or as a business, we normally do activities. And when we are doing our activities, some of those activities can also be a source of competitive advantage. So the VRIO framework was helping us to analyze our resources. But the value chain analysis, it is helping us to analyze our activities in the organization so that we know ما هي الأنشطة الضرورية، ما هي الأنشطة التي تساعد المنظمة في تحقيق الأرباح. So the value chain analysis is a strategic management tool used to analyze a company's internal activities and identify areas where value is created. So in this definition, I need you to focus with what? The internal activities. So as a business, we have a lot of activities. But some of these activities, they are not important. Some of these activities are important. Some of these activities are helping us to get profit. Some of these activities are not helping us to get the profit. So as a businessman, I need to focus with only the activities that are going to help me as a businessman to increase my margin, to increase my profit, to increase my sales. Now, talking about the value chain analysis, according to the value chain analysis, any organization, any business has two types of activities. Any business, any organization has two parts or two types of activities. Number one, we have the support activities. Then number two, we have the primary activities. So we have the support activities and we have the primary activities. So these activities decides or determines our margin. What is the meaning of the margin? This margin means profit. So if we want the margin to increase, then we need to analyze and focus with the key activities and leave the activities that are not helping us. So that is the basic idea of this framework. So if you come to the primary activities, there are 5 key activities in any business. As we shall see, we have the inbound logistics, operations, outbound logistics, marketing and sales, and the service. These are the primary activities. Why do we call them primary? The business cannot operate without these activities. That is why they are called al-anshita al-asasiya. So we cannot, as a business, we cannot operate without these 5 activities. Then, fil muqabil, we have the support. The support activities, these are known as what? Al-anshita al-thanawiya. They are just there to support. It can miss, but still the business can continue. So as a businessman, I need to analyze all these areas. Now, if you look at this framework here, look at the primary, the component summary. So this is the summary where I am pointing to. So the primary activities, al-anshita al-asasiya, they directly involve in creating and delivering the product and service. These are the activities that are directly involved in giving the service or creating the product. So number 1, we have the inbound logistic. What is the meaning of inbound? Receive and manage inputs. Every business needs an input. For example, if you are operating a hotel, you need sugar, you need salt, okay? So these are the inbound. You have to receive the inputs. Every business needs input. If you are, for example, having a business center shop, where are you getting your inputs? Your business cannot operate without the inputs. Number 2, operations convert inputs into outputs. For example, if it is in the hotel, the idea of cooking, this is what is known as operation. In school, the idea of teaching, that is what is known as the operation. So every business, they have an operation. Going to the hospital, what is the operation in the hospital? The input, you have the patients. Now, al-amaliya is what? The operation is the doctors. They are treating and giving the patients the medication. Then number 3, outbound. If we finish cooking the food, we need to sell it to our customers. Outbound. That is the meaning of outbound. Then marketing. Every business in this world, they need to market, either using the traditional marketing or the digital marketing. Nowadays, if you don't market your business, you're going to fail. So you can market through the social media platform, the WhatsApp, Facebook, TikTok, or you can market your business in the TV, the radios. So ala kulli hal, at-taswiq daruri, al-i'lanat daruri. You cannot operate if you don't market. How are your customers going to know if your business is existing? How will I know you have a shop? You need to market. Then we have service. ما هي الخدمة التي تقدم? Provide support to retain customers. If you don't give discount, if you don't give good customer care, what will happen? Your business, your customers, they will leave you, they'll go to another place. So to retain our customers, we need to give something that is special. We can give discounts, we can talk to them in a nice way, we can respond to their complaint, we can give them extra services, repairs and warranties to keep them. There is nothing difficult than keeping your customers in the 21st century. Getting your customers is very easy, but retaining them is very difficult. So these are the primary activities your business cannot operate. So if there is a problem in the primary activity, it is going to affect your margin. The green, look at the green place here, because our objective is to increase this margin. We need this margin to be very big. But if our primary activities, they have a problem, the margin is going to be small, and you are going to get a big loss. Now, support activities. So these are the things that support your business. Mathalan, farm infrastructure, the overall management and the support system, the human resource management. How do you manage your human resource? Do you train them? Technology. What technology are you using in your business? Procurement. Acquire resources at the best value. Where are you acquiring your resources? So the bottom line, you have to evaluate the support activities plus what? Plus the primary activities, so that you can increase this margin. This margin should be big, 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 and bigger. And it can only be big if we constantly analyze, if we constantly evaluate the two activities. So this is the framework we normally use to evaluate our activities. And this is the framework we always use to evaluate our resources. Don't confuse the VRIO. The VRIO is for the resources. Then the value chain is for the activities. Now we are through with that. So another thing, of course, as an organization, you need to analyze your culture and leadership. So this one is involved. Remember, in our last lesson, we talked about what is your mission? What is your vision as an organization? What is your value? It should be very clear. Leadership style. Many organizations fail not because they don't have resources. You might be having the best resources, you might be having the best infrastructure, but if the style of leadership is bad, it is going to affect the whole business. You cannot make a mistake when you are choosing the leader, the manager who is going to manage your organization. And the style of leadership the manager is using is going to determine if you'll be successful. So, autocratic, dictatorial, that he only makes the decision, there is no mushawara. Is it democratic, involving the team? Is it transformational, inspiring and motivating? Is it transactional, based on al-iqab, while what? Giving rewards and punishment? Or is it transactional, or is it laissez-faire, where there is minimal supervision? So, as a leader, there is no one best leadership style. That is why we normally have situational leadership in management. Al-qiyada hasab al-mawaqif. Sometimes I need to be a dictator. Sometimes I need to be democratic. Sometimes I need to be transformational. Sometimes I need to be transactional. هذه هي طبيعة القيادة. So you cannot say, oh, khalas, I'm just going to be democratic. No. Some workers, you have to be a dictator. You cannot listen to them. Al-awamir, do this. If you don't do, masalam. But for some workers, you need to consult them, especially those who are educated, those who are experienced. You can use democratic. Like the cleaners who are cleaning, mathalan. Most of the time, you don't have to consult anything. Please, you are supposed to clean from point A to point B. If you don't clean, masalam, we are going to get a new cleaner. I cannot, there is nothing democratic there. So, you need to always adapt and choose the best leadership style based on the condition, based on the situation, based on the circumstance. Now, decision making. As a leader, one of your most important tasks will be to make decisions. There are different types of decisions. We have the strategic decision, long term. We have the tactical decision, middle term decision. Then we have the operation decision, day to day. You know, so as a leader, you need to have also the decision making skills. So, for example, and one important thing is that when you are making the strategic decision, you will need to consult. You will need to use the democratics. The operational decision, you don't need to consult anybody. The tactical decision, you can use transformational leadership. So every decision has a different leadership style. Also, another thing is haikal al-munazzam. The haikal, sometimes you need to analyze mahi al-haikal, because the haikal that you are using as an organization can be an obstacle sometimes. So you need to ask yourself, which haikal are you using in your organization? So we have different haikal. So we normally have number one here. We normally have the functional. Many organizations, they use the functional. The boss, the CEO, the vice president, ala hasab al-aqsam, then you go down. So this is, many organizations, they normally follow this. Then number two, divisional. Divisional is ala hasab al-muntaj. So for example, as an organization, we are producing laptops, mobile phones, and earphones. So for product, so the organizational structure is based on the product. So for laptops, they have their manager, assistant manager, ila ghairi dhalik. This other department of mobile phones, they have their own. So this is what is known as what? This is what is known as the divisional. Then you also have the matrix. So the matrix is a cross-functional. You can see the way it has been arranged. The matrix, most of the time, it is used in project management. If you're having projects, it is best to use the matrix. Then we normally also have the flat, where we have the manager, mubasharatan, employee. So you don't have any vice president down, no. So you are working in organization, you know which one do you use in your organization. You have different types, right? So why is this important? The structure. The structure helps, number one, in decision making. So if the structure is very complex, decision making will take a long time. You have to ask the CEO, the vice president, blah, blah. By the time it's go down there, it's too late. But for example, the flat, the manager, directly to the employee. I can go to the manager directly if I need anything. So here there is efficiency and there is effectiveness, right? I don't have to ask anybody. But sometimes you find I have to go to the vice, I have to go here, there before I reach up. By that time, you've wasted a lot of time, and so on and so forth. Then lastly, sometimes as an organization, you can use what is known as the SWOT analysis to evaluate, to analyze your internal environment. So this is also, so the SWOT analysis is used to analyze both the internal and external environment. I need you to understand this. So the SWOT, the S is for the strength, and the W is for the weakness. Then O, opportunities, and T is the threats. So the strength and the weakness, this is internal, inside the organization. The opportunities and the threat is outside. That is why they say external factors. So the external factors is opportunities and threats. So this is also a model that you can use. Then lastly, there is what is known as the core competency strength. What is the meaning of the core competency analysis? When we are talking of any business, it is like a tree. Any business is like a tree. Now, as a business, what should you do? As a business, what should you do? You need to focus with your key strength. You have many strengths, but there is one key strength you need to focus with. That is the root. If anything happens to the root, what is going to happen? The whole tree is going down. So you need to focus with your key strength. This is the core competencies. These are the hidden but powerful strengths that give a sustainable competitive advantage. You know? So these are, for example, in a school or a university, the roots, the human resource, the quality of your teachers. If the teachers in your school, they are not trained, what will happen to the school? What will happen to the performance of the student? So as a school, your core competence is your teachers. Number two, even leadership. Leadership is also your core competencies. The curriculum in your school. So every business, they have to identify one key strength and they need to focus on it. That is what is meant by core competency analysis. We analyze the root. If the root is okay, the trunk will be okay, the branches will be okay, and we shall get the end product. We shall get our profit. We are going to get an increase in sales. The business is going to grow. So that is the end. That is the end of our lesson. So today we were basically talking about the environmental analysis, both the external environment and the internal environment. And we've also talked about the frameworks that you can use to do what? You can use to analyze your internal environment and your external environment. So I'm going to send the attendance link in your groups. Please take the attendance. I'm going to send the attendance in your group. Please take the attendance before I disable the link. These lessons, you will find it in the YouTube channel. I will prepare the lessons and you'll find it in the YouTube channel. So that's the end of our lesson. If there is no question, can we meet tomorrow, inshallah? If there is no question, we can meet tomorrow. Is there any question?
Thank you, Ustad. Thank you.
Okay, inshallah. We'll meet tomorrow. Wassalam.